I'm Shay Russell from mining.com.au and I'm coming to you from NWR Communications Canada Spotlight. Sitting next to me is Daniel Gleeson, the CEO of Canada Phosphate. Daniel, it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Now, let's kick off. Why phosphate? Out of all the minerals that you could go looking for, what are you doing in phosphate?
It's a good question. I mean, phosphate's a critical element. It's actually been included on the critical minerals list in Canada because it's a fundamental source of fertiliser for agricultural production. So you understand the NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. We're the phosphorus in the NPK. And with a continued growing population, mouths to feed, sustainable aviation fuel and renewable diesels, which comes from canola production and other oils, fertiliser is always going to be required.
I'm looking a bit like a lazy journalist, but now why Canada? Out of all the places you could go to look for phosphate, why Canada?
Fundamentally, Canada imports 100% of its phosphate needs, and 80% of that's coming from the US. The other remaining 20% is sourced from either Russia, China, Middle East or North Africa. So the requirements for them to secure onshore supply is quite critical. And in particular, the US is now themselves importing from Peru. So the quality of phosphate is diminishing. Canada has no projects other than ours at the moment. And I think the necessity to secure food and EV production, which I'll allude on soon, is quite critical for the country.
We'll come back to the EVs. First, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't actually ask where in Canada your project is. So maybe a little bit of details about what it is and where we can find it.
So the projects are in British Columbia. We have a project called Wapiti, which is just south of Tumbler Ridge, about 70 kilometres. Traditional coal mining area, so great infrastructure. In particular, a lot of natural gas and sulfuric acid available, which is fundamental to the production and processing of rock phosphate. In the south, we have Fernie, which is just an hour and a half southwest of Calgary, and that also is a traditional coal mining area. So access to labour, road, rail, etc. is significant, and they are sedimentary phosphate deposits, which is the world's phosphate mining is 90% sedimentary and 10% igneous. So we are on the right side of which rock we should be mining out of rock phosphate.
So you've mentioned you've got a couple of projects across Canada. I know it's very unfair to try and boil it down to where they're at in the next 1 minute, but could you do that?
Yeah, look, we've recently completed an exploration target with Daruge Geo, and they've come back with 20.2 to 28.6 million tonnes on 40% of our tenements. So we will look to be doing a drill program at the latter part of this year for 3,000 to 5,000 metres, and would really hope to bring that to an indicated and potentially measured level. And that's purely because it's sedimentary, so it's very consistent, very easy to follow, and we know the geology quite well. So that drilling program is going to be fundamental for 2025 to announce a mineral resource estimate in 26. And at the same time, we're moving forward with permitting in Fernie. So we have one bulk sample received this year. We have another one expected towards the end of this year. They're both 10,000 tonnes. And then we're in the process of finalising a submission for an industrial minerals permit, which is 150,000 tonnes up to 250. So that permitting process is, I'll say, relatively simple compared to other forms of permits.
So there's obviously a lot of momentum happening at the moment, but I want to pull on a thread you said earlier, phosphate and EVs. Yeah. I haven't made that connection before. What's the link?
So there's a lot of battery technologies around, but clearly the one that's advancing and has taken favour with everyone, obviously in China, is lithium iron phosphate batteries. So the technology has really helped to improve the affordability, the safety, the discharge, and it's also no longer mining the cobalt and manganese that goes into traditional lithium ion batteries. So it's a favoured technology. I think the Chinese are now over 60% in terms of adoption of LFP batteries in vehicles, and also from an energy storage perspective, whether it's solar, wind, whatever that may be, everyone's looking for somewhere to store that energy, and a lithium iron phosphate battery is where it's going to be at.
Listen, Daniel, as I said earlier, you've got some great momentum happening here, and I do love learning about phosphate projects. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you very much too.